I'm unveiling and consolidating and revealing the bottom line, the foundational principles of Scripture. If you don't understand and you don't acknowledge the authority, you end up wasting time going through things unnecessarily. Just like, to give you an example, and I don't want anybody to feel bad because of this, but we use this as an example. You all were mulling over Moses and Aaron and Miriam. I came and I gave you the bottom line. But because you didn't recognize the authority, you had to go and find it written in the Bible somewhere. Then you had to go and try to find the equivalent for Aaron and the equivalent for this and go all these other places. Why? Because you didn't recognize the authority. When I spoke and told you that, what you find in the Bible is going to be no different. Paul didn't have no more authority than I have. But you got to read Paul to confirm what I have to say. Only a fool will do that. You're blind. The enemy has you blind. ELOHIYM has confirmed who he has made me to you in your healings, in your interventions, in your education, in what he's revealed to you in the teaching for years. So if you don't recognize it after all that, then you're not recognizing ELOHIYM. You know what happens? It shuts your system down. So when I gave you all the answers, it wasn't good enough. So you all wasted another 45 minutes chasing through and running all these other things, and I was just sitting in there laughing, saying, I just put a burden on them by giving them the answer. Because then they had to go around and go prove to confirm whether I was right or not. Well, how do we know this was a prophetess? Where does it say? How do we know this was this? Well, then was he this and was he that? All this extra dialogue would have been eliminated if you recognize the authority. If you recognize the authority, it's okay, well, that's it. Here, we can go on to the next one. We got the answer. Well, that's the way ELOHIYM works. When we are quick to obey instruction from him through his ordained administration, it activates his quick responses to our prayers, to our requests, to our needs. So again, when you look at quick obedience, quick obedience to instruction from ELOHIYM through his administration, if you're consistent so that ELOHIYM's answer to your prayer is consistent, you're consistent so his positive intervention is consistent, and you're consistent in your quick obedience, then the benefits come quick. You'll be eligible but waiting because you're slow. You've grown deaf to his voice. ELOHIYM doesn't talk directly to any of you. If you think he does, you're lying. You're fooling yourself. The enemy's fooled you. He don't communicate directly to any of you. He does through the Scripture and he does through the voice of administration. Local administration follows the teaching and instruction that's come from me. So if you don't recognize that, we look at the situation with Moses and Aaron and Miriam, because that was a wonderful example. It's a perfect example. Perfect combination. Look at what happened there. First of all, they didn't recognize Moses' authority. They get their instruction from God through Moses. They didn't read, and the scriptures weren't written. So they got the instruction through Moses, which means Moses was authority over the high priest, over the prophets, and over everybody else in the system. God talked to Moses mouth to mouth. Everybody else got it secondhand. God revealed to Moses what he wanted Moses to understand. He didn't have to give it to him in his sleep. He told it, mouth to mouth. But yet, they don't recognize ELOHIYM. They don't recognize his authority. They don't recognize his administration. So they disregard and disrespect ELOHIYM by their disrespect toward Moses. So what do? They start murmuring against Moses because Moses married a black woman. What business is that of theirs? They go back, well, I read in the law where it says, or I remember him saying in the law it said, and look at his actions. Moses is not under any of their authority. None of them have that authority. None of them have that right. So, when they murmured against Moses, they were murmuring against God. Now, both of them were ordained. Both of them were acting and had ecclesiastical authority. both of them. Aaron was priest, high priest, and Miriam was a prophetess. What did it say when Miriam left and she started singing, all the women followed Miriam?
Yes.
So now she's disgracing, as the women's leader, she's disgracing God's representative. The consequences of that was death. Aaron's quick response, you know, why didn't it hit Aaron too? Because Aaron murmured too, right? But Aaron realized, oh, we messed up when we went against Moses, and he went to Moses for intercession, for intervention, which means he recognized and acknowledged the sin. Oh, we should not have done that. That's what stopped whatever would have hit him. Why did it hit Miriam first? She's older than both of them. She had a higher responsibility. She was violating both physical and spiritual principles in going the way she was going. Murmuring against her little brother. You know, she looked at it as her little brother. Aaron looked at it as, you know, his brother. Moses wasn't their brother. He was their connection to Elohim. Higher than a high priest. So when they murmured against him, they cut off themselves from God. So then what happened? The consequence struck. Well, Aaron was quick to respond. And Elohim did not respond to Aaron's request. He responded to Moses' request. He responded to Moses' request. Moses said, intervene now, don't let her die. Now, again, in that situation, Aaron's quick response to Moses saved his life and his sister's life. And what was the consequence? She just had to stay outside the city. She didn't have to agree because they put her out. She didn't have to agree to go. It didn't matter. They put her out. You know, all this talk about how she agreed on outside, her perspective had nothing to do with it. Her perspective was wrong. She was dead. So for 7 days she was dead. She was cut off. If you're dead, there is no appeal. You can't make no appeal for yourself when you're dead. So then she was dead 7 days. You know, for a week. For the symbol of Elohim's complete plan, 7,000 years. She was out for 7 days. And then, did she come back? No, they brought her back. So she was not a part of the equation. She was not a part of the formula that resulted in the intervention. And their intervention was purely because of Moses. And Moses asking Elohim to intervene now was in line with what Elohim wanted. Why? Because the nation was on the move. They had to stop. The whole nation had to stop moving for a week to deal with this situation. Now, if they were already camped someplace, everything might have been different. If he said now, they might have waited. You know, she was a women's leader. What would have been the impact if she died? Who was going to succeed her? We don't see where anything was in place because there was no assistant to Miriam that's named in the scripture as a go-to person. So when Miriam was out, that whole communication system, that whole support system was all shut down for a week, and the nation had to stop. The nation stopped their movement. So when Elohim has to deal with the leaders, make correction on behalf of the leaders, sometimes it'll shut down operations. Sometimes it'll make things have to stand still. That shows the impact Miriam had on the nation. He could have said, you know, keep moving. In 7 days, this group is so big, in 7 days, there'll still be people that have to pass here. Send notice for Zebulun, when you get to here, get Miriam out. He could have done that, but he didn't. Why? Because Miriam was a part of top administration. She was a prophetess, an active prophetess. She's a part of the leaders group. So the head had to stop and wait until it was complete, or else. So the nation stops. So again, and that's why I said go back and read the account, because the account had nothing to do with offices per se. The account had to do with what was wrong, what happened that Elohim was responding to, and why. He responded to them because they murmured against Moses. What did Moses' wife, the color of his wife, have to do with the nation's business? Nothing. That's how narrow-minded the leadership was. That's how ignorant the leadership was. They had been taught better, but again, they didn't recognize the authority. They didn't recognize Moses' authority. They didn't recognize Elohim's authority. So when they canceled Moses' authority, there was nothing over him because he was the connection between them and Elohim. So when they disrespect Moses, then there's no Elohim for them. So even when we are eligible for active answers and we're eligible for positive answers, if we are not quick in obedience, then even our yeses will be slow.